Coming off of that Nintendo Direct, there's been a lot of discussion around the Switch 2 and price points. Once again, this happened when the Switch 2 was first shown with that Direct, and then all the information came out afterwards, people being excited for games, only to find out that Mario Kart World is $80, and then we see some of the accessory prices, which then ended up going up a bit more due to uncertain economic times and mostly tariffs, but like, you get the idea. The pricing conversation has been ongoing since the system was fully revealed and then we had its launch. Well, things got turned up even a little more with this latest Direct because, things just keep getting more and more expensive. And it has brought up the question around, has Nintendo started to really price people out at this point, especially going into the system's first holiday? And that's what I wanted to go over here today. So if you guys enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new. It's just, I saw this being discussed a lot in the comments from today in Newswave, but also just threads popping up online on different forums, on places like Reddit. And it's just, it has been a hot button topic right now around where Nintendo currently is with the, not just necessarily the Switch 2 that just started, but just their brand in general currently being viewed more and more as kind of like the Apple of gaming. And like, that's how people were kind of looking at Sony for a while now. And it almost feels like it's starting to really shift over to Nintendo a bit with some of the pricing that we're getting on games with DLC being bundled into it and Switch 2 enhanced editions. And now we're even seeing it with amiibos. And look, we'll go over this now. So here's the thing I do want to point out first, this is not new necessarily for the Switch 2, because if you remember in 2017 with the Switch 1, when that was fully revealed to start 2017, it was in January, we got a lot of accessory pricing and people were not happy with the prices back then as well. $299 being too expensive for the Switch. This is from Forbes. Okay, so some of these articles are funny to read now because you go back and they say, I think it's too expensive. I think the system's going to struggle at launch. The Xbox One and the PS4 are $50 cheaper right now. And hindsight being 2020, we know how it worked out for Nintendo with the Switch 1. But a lot of that was, you look at the library, go back and look at the Switch 1 library currently over the span of the 8 years it's been out. You can make the argument that is, especially for like core gamers, that might be the best library of games we've ever seen in gaming. Just the Switch 1 library. It is massive, and all their franchises are basically there. And then there are a lot of third-party games, and it's a lot happening. It doesn't have Madden or Call of Duty, that kind of stuff. But from the core gamer perspective, there's a lot to play. So that is one of the reasons that Nintendo is able to overcome a lot of the pricing issues that people were seeing here. So like, this is Polygon, same deal in January, that wrote this up about the accessories. And really they quoted all kinds of people tweeting about it and putting up price tags here just around the Joy-Cons, which, remember, that was $80 back in 2017 for a pair of them, or $50 for one. Even the charge grip not being in there was a whole thing. So again, not a new conversation with Nintendo and price, but when we start to see this pattern that's emerging now, even in the first 3 months with the Switch 2 games and DLC and even some of these remasters, look at the amiibo prices. This is crazy to me when I saw some of these, like the amiibos in general. We see the Mario Galaxy ones at $40. Those are larger. People are doing comparisons for sizes, but the number is going to jump off the screen clearly. Then you have the Metroid Prime 4 Beyond ones at $30, but really the Kirby Air Riders, $50 is that's something else. Now, I'm not a big amiibo person, so it's easy for me to walk right past these, but if you're someone who's really into amiibos, this probably hit really hard for you. The idea being you can change the figures from the different machines for Kirby Air Riders. I guess that means you would want both of them, so you can swap them back and forth. And I have a feeling we're going to get another Kirby Air Riders Direct. We're probably going to see an amiibo for each character and maybe most of the machines in that game. So I think there's going to be a whole slew of $50 amiibos being introduced, and maybe they have double packs and stuff for $100. I think it's going to get kind of ridiculous and out of control there for all the amiibo collectors. Good luck there with that. But along with the amiibo, of course, there's been conversation around some of these games, whether it's DLC being announced very, very early, like this one here, where you have the Legend ZA, Dimensions. It's $30. It's already been announced. That's going to go alongside of the game. However, it is interesting because the way that this is presented, it's like it's coming out with the game same day. The DLC is going to have like apparel that you get on day one, and then the story content is releasing later. They say it will have released by the end of February 2026. So it doesn't come out the same day as the main Pokemon Legends ZA game, but they are certainly selling it right now. You can pre-order the DLC without really knowing what's in it for $30, making the Legend ZA complete $100. Okay, so my thing with Pokemon is that they've been doing stuff like this for a long time. Like, we see the games, and they still have two versions of the game for some reason. People are like, oh, well, you can trade. Yeah, the idea back then is you had a link cable, and it was a more in-person thing. I feel like once they started introducing the idea of being able to trade online without having to see people in person and use link cable, it kind of felt very redundant to have two versions of the game. So this, I feel like, is a way for them to still kind of double up almost. Not quite. We'll get there with next year, I'm sure, with the new generation, and they'll, for some reason, have two versions at $70 a piece. And then maybe DLC. If they do DLC, that'll be crazy. But I mean, that'll be $140 for both. And trust me, I've seen it. People come in all the time at the stores I'd work at when they were on the 3DS, and they would just buy both of them, and it was $80, and it was pretty straightforward. That was the purchase. It took 5 minutes to put it all together for them, and they were out the door, $80 spent. So the Pokemon games in general just end up being expensive. The cards, the merchandise, everything. So I mean, for Pokemon fans, maybe $100 isn't a huge thing at that point. This is the thing that really set the internet off. Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, the double pack, that being $70. So it's the Wii games obviously being brought up here, and there are more enhancements than was initially let on. So we do have 4K. There's mouse controls in the game. It seems like some of the assets have even been touched up a bit here and there. So I do think these games are going to look good specifically on the Switch 2. The Switch 1, however, it feels like they could have done something with 3D All-Stars where Mario Galaxy 2 just got thrown in there as a DLC. Wow, what a concept there. But for the Switch 2, this I think would have made a better Switch 2 game with all the enhancements there on the cartridge. However, this is the route they're going, and it's $40 each for the games digitally. The problem we have with this is I talked about this briefly during a podcast on Sacred Symbols Plus as how much impact does the core plugged-in gamer have anymore on the industry. And I say anymore because I think back to maybe the earlier days of the 360 and the PS3, where I think the core gamer had more of an impact and were able to move the market more effectively than now, where it's almost impossible to do so, especially for these larger, very well-known and established brands and franchises like Mario and so on. Whereas before, when things weren't even being sold digitally, you had to go out to the store for, say, a midnight release for Halo 3 or Call of Duty 4. And then you got the press release 2 days later saying that they sold 1 million or 2 million copies in the first day. You knew you were probably part of that, and you moved the market because you were at the midnight release buying up copies of this game. It's not really the case anymore. It seems like we have become more and more detached from the mainstream that will buy into something like Mario Galaxy 1 and 2. And we know that because it's number 6 on Amazon sales for the physical $70 copy. I mean, it's beating out a $25 Roblox gift card. That's how you know it's on its way to success right now. And it's Mario. It's going to happen. It's on an install size. It's very, very large with the Switch 1. Like it checks all the boxes to be able to be successful. But the $70 price point that was interesting to me, I think this is the second $70 game they've done on the Switch 1, and it's 2 remasters that they're smashing together and putting out there on the system. Oh, and I did see people annoyed about the Virtual Boy thing. Look, here's the way I view this. Nintendo knows this is going to be a niche product. Not many people out there look back fondly on the Virtual Boy, and they certainly don't look at it as a must-have product for their Switch system. It works on Switch 1 or Switch 2. It was more of a I don't know, kind of a fun little device maybe you'll get to try out, or you'll just opt for the cardboard version that's $25. I don't think Nintendo believes they're going to sell a bunch of these, and I think that's one of the reasons it's priced at $100, because on their end, they have to make it at least worthwhile from a business standpoint to do this. So they figure, yes, they're going to cash in on the dozens and dozens of Virtual Boy fans out there with this product. I will say, though, Nintendo certainly could have made these Virtual Boy games work in docked mode. We have emulation for Virtual Boy now that just forgoes the stereoscopic 3D effect, and the games still function fine and they work fine. So that's the one thing that is still really weird to me, is that they feel the need to have you buy this product, this accessory, either this Virtual Boy replica or the cardboard, to then utilize a subscription service you may already be paying for. It's for the expansion pack, so if you have the $50 a year service or you're part of a family plan for it, to me, you should still have access to the games that are going into the service. And you know what? If you decide you don't want the headset, there you go. You've decided you're not going to necessarily get the full effect, we'll say, the true experience of the Virtual Boy, which mostly means you won't have a headache that day. And then with all of that, we are seeing the $70 price tag be adopted quite heavily by Nintendo with games that people are still unsure. Should this be a $70 game? I saw like the Mario Tennis game be brought up, and coming off of Mario Tennis Aces and how a lot of these sports games have felt, at least for during the Switch 1 generation, have felt half-baked on launch, and then they try to add stuff over time. It does make me question that $70 price tag out of the gate for something like a new Mario Tennis game. And then more DLC being tacked on, not even necessarily with the Pokemon games, that coming from the Pokemon company that Nintendo's part of, but even just completely Nintendo themselves, something like Donkey Kong Bonanza, as that game then with $20 DLC becomes a $90 package deal. So with all of that being said and spotlighted here, people are wondering, okay, am I being priced out of Nintendo when it comes to some of my previous buying habits? And most likely, yes, in the sense that you may just buy less games during this generation because, well, these games are going to absorb more and more of your money if you want even the complete experience. And we're really going to find out if this is the case, especially this holiday season. So Nintendo right now, they're selling the Switch system starting at $450. And here's probably an unpopular opinion for people right now. I actually think the $450 price on the Switch 2 hardware is about right. I look at the technology and what comes in the box and what we've seen even early on from what this device is capable of, and then viewing the market as everything just is more expensive than what we're seeing with the Switch 2 now as prices continue to move up around it, provided Nintendo can still stand firm at $450, we'll say. I think it's actually priced well and could end up aging well even throughout this generation, especially as the PS6 and the next Xbox show up that most likely will once again test the baseline pricing of the market, as in they're going to get more expensive probably. I think Nintendo with their hardware is going to be fine, and I think they will end up raising their forecast for the Switch 2 hardware over the 15 million that they currently have set. The thing I really want to see, though, how will their software do? Because if the software is kind of in this idea of, wow, everything's a bit more expensive, I'm going to buy 1 or 2 games rather than 3 or 4 because it just takes more money to get 1 copy of a game. Will their software be able to hit the 45 million that they currently have forecasted through the rest of this fiscal year? That would be up to the end of March. And it's going to be a really weird look if they raise the forecast of their hardware, but either lower the forecast or keep their software about the same. And we'll really start to learn more about this when we get their next financial report for investors. And that should happen the first half of November. We'll find out more about that. And that'll kind of give us an idea as to where we are going into the holiday season. And then we'll find out everything next year when they come to the table with their holiday results. But one thing's for sure, when it comes to pricing, this is definitely a different feeling than with the Switch 1, as I pointed out earlier, how people were discussing accessory prices and even pricing around the console itself. There wasn't as much discussion around game prices or DLC or feeling like Nintendo is trying to get one over on them with the prices that they were seeing flash up on screen, like an $80 Mario Kart World, or these bundles of DLC regularly being with enhanced editions, $80 or even $90 or something like Donkey Kong Bonanza. So it does feel different for Nintendo right now versus the last generation, which ended up being a very successful generation for them all the way around. But will that be the case for the Switch 2? I guess we're going to find out how priced out people really are during this holiday season coming up. But let me know what you guys think about this one down below, especially since I just see so many people talking about this and discussing the pricing. Where are you when it comes to game prices for Nintendo with the Switch 2 and the hardware itself, along with some of the accessories? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.